Hello everyone, I'm Liz Bruner and welcome back to our CNGtv studio here at the North American Global Summit in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center. Wellness, that is a huge topic in the workplace these days and a major priority for many organizations. And my guest right now, Amy Blankson, is here to talk about wellness. And you co-founded GoodThink and you're focusing on how to cultivate happiness in this digital era. How do we do that? I mean, really, it seems like such a huge topic, Amy.
We have never been more overwhelmed, more fragmented as a society than we are today. We are constantly overwhelmed by our text messages, social media, interruptions, notifications, sports updates.
Yes.
And as all this information is flooding into our space, suddenly people are realizing the value of being able to cultivate places in their life where they can think and they can focus and they can flow better. And so it's not about getting rid of technology, it's really about how do we find balance in doing what we need to do for work and life, but also being able to use technology better.
Sure.
And part of doing that is just really starting with awareness, thinking about how we use technology now and how we want to be using it. And so I spend a lot of time with GoodThink and my own organization trying to figure out how to help companies to create a more positive digital culture.
I like to say, let's create a safe zone.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
You have written a book, The Future of Happiness, and you say that there are 5 strategies about how people can not only survive, but really thrive in that digital era. What would be some of those that you can share with us?
So there are 5 strategies. The first is to stay grounded. So really thinking about what drives you to want to use technology. And this really comes back to thinking about when, where, why, how we're using technology and how we want to be. Because sometimes there's a gap between I really want to be more present with my family, and yet I have this really important email that's tearing me apart. How do I figure out whether or not to take that call? And it comes back to really thinking about intention. So that was the first strategy. And the second one comes back to knowing yourself. I call it know thyself, almost like a Socratic moment here where we're thinking about how do we use technology currently? Not just how do I think I use it, but like let's actually look at the data.
Right.
Yes.
And now I think on Apple iPhones there's an update that says how much screen time you're using,
Yes,
which
that's
I don't know if that's a
screen
good thing or a bad thing.
It's a little scary,
It is
right?
a little scary. But I think I read on your website too, the average smartphone user checks their phone 150 times a day.
A day.
So now if we're getting that time telling us how much time we're doing, that's amazing.
Yes. I mean, if you just do a simple math of, I think I check my phone 150 times a day and it takes me a minute to open my phone, check it, and close it, that's 2.5 hours of your day that you're spending opening and closing your phone. And 10 years ago, 11 years ago, before the iPhone came out, that was not part of our world. So we have these new competing interests that we really have to be forward thinking about. If we want to be our best selves, how do we spend our time, and what are some ways that we can maybe cut back so that we can do other things that we really want to do?
And I'm going to tell people to buy your book and figure out what the other ones are. But so do you think the digital age has hindered us or helped us overall? What's your theory?
So I love the quote of William Shakespeare when he said, "There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so."
Oh, that is good.
It is good. And it really encapsulates for me this moment we're at in history where I can use technology for good. I can use the same technology for bad. And you could use the airplane as an example. Airplanes can cause massive damage, as we saw in 9/11. They can also become the thing that flies you to see your grandchildren when you are away from home. The same technology can be used for good or bad, but how are we going to actively try to use it for the best possible ways? And so I really try to focus a lot on which technologies out there are leading the way. How can we follow the path in a way that will move us towards the society that we want to be?
And I think too, I called it a safe zone, but it's about setting boundaries in some cases of saying, here's when I'm going to do this and here's when I'm going to do that. And that's a very hard thing for a lot of people overall.
It is, especially when we know that we live in this attention economy and these devices are actually highly attuned to being distracting. They have been studied.
Right.
There's millions of dollars invested.
They're created to be addicting, right?
They're created to be addicting.
Yes.
So we have to be that much stronger to be a step ahead and say, okay, no, I know when I get tempted that it takes about 7 seconds to delete an app or to reinstall it. So if I'm really tempted to keep checking, for instance, the news, and it's become something that is keeping me back from who I want to be, I'll just delete that app for 7 days or 21 days until I feel like I'm under control, and then I can reinstall it. But these are things that we can learn, these tips and tricks to be able to maximize our time.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that these apps were created to be addictive.
They were.
They were created to be addictive. It's kind of fascinating.
We don't have to fall prey to that.
No, we
either.
don't.
No,
We don't. We can walk through a Vegas casino and not gamble, right?
That's right, exactly.
How do you personally keep your sanity and boost your happiness?
So I get to travel the world and speak to people who are truly inspiring, and they are constantly challenging me and giving me new ideas for how to live my life in a different way. So I steep myself in positive psychology literature. I practice positive habits. It's something that I have learned as a work ethic and not something that just comes upon you as like, oh, I feel happy in this moment, but I really have to work towards it. So I practice every morning before I touch the keys on my keyboard. I'll stop and watch my breath so that I can focus on what is my intention for the day. How am I about to use this technology, and what am I going to do within my space? What's most important? Those little tips and tricks make such a difference in our day.
They really do. They honest and true. As someone who practices those things too, I completely
fantastic.
100% agree.
Awesome.
Wonderful to have you with us, Amy.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it, and
Thank
good
you.
luck with the book.
Thank
And thank
you.
you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.